in the wild are
in the manhunt for the
pre-scheduled
suspect.
events where they like openly talk about infiltrating it. It's usually just like fans. And even the haters overall, like, they're pretty normal. They're even like, I mean, the haters overall, in their reaction to me in person are not as like, sometimes they'll be sweaty. They'll be sweaty when they're like in the moment, in the pocket, when they want to be like, yeah, I'm going to get them. But like, you know, it's not like a terrifying experience. Aren't you going to be late to Oxford? When are you flying out, big bro? Yeah. Oh my God, we're so back. It's like we never left. Oh my God, Susan Collins, she's concerned. Oh my God, stop the presses, guys. Susan Collins is concerned. Anyway, will you cover the Anglophone crisis in Cameroon and dictator Paul Biya? Also, will you come back to Oxford? No, I will not be covering Cameroon today. I don't even know what the hell's going on. But yeah, backpack belonging to CEO suspect. CEO shooting suspect is found.
Suspect in the shooting death of the head of one of the nation's.
Have you met anyone IRL who has a good faith critique and not a hater? Yes. The only two people that had good faith critiques, both were around sex work. Both were women, and both IRL were not a hater, but had good faith critiques, and both of them had not disagreements necessarily, but like didn't fully understand what my opinion was around sex work. That's it. I think that's like probably the most. That's probably like the biggest point of contention usually is sex work related. This POS is ruining the LeBron dunk compilation, man. What are you talking about? Where can we see your Oxford? Where can we see your Oxford speech? It's going to be on the Oxford Union website, like on a YouTube page, but we haven't. But it hasn't come out yet. It's going to come out in like a week, probably.
Nation's largest health insurers. ABC's Morgan Norwood is here with the latest. Morgan, good morning.
Good morning to you, Whit. Yes, police say the suspect behind that brazen ambush of CEO Brian Thompson earlier this week likely took a bus out of the city, but he left behind a critical piece of evidence, his backpack. And as investigators comb through it for clues, the FBI is joining what's now a nationwide search and offering a $50,000 reward.
This morning, the frantic search for the killer behind the assassination-style murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson now turning into a nationwide manhunt. According to sources, investigators believe the suspect escaped New York City, last seen at 6:59 a.m. on Wednesday, riding a bike out of Central Park after the shooting. Police say the suspect hopped into a taxi, headed to a bus station, and made his getaway. Friday, NYPD officers combing Central Park doing a...
I think there's something... I mean, I can't help but love this story because it's like, it's literally everything that I've talked about, like for years, all of it coming together. You have the understandable resentment and anger that massive swaths of the American population feel towards healthcare and towards executives in general that are involved in healthcare. Like the resentment that they feel is palpable. That's number one. So the reception of this story has been genuinely different than the way that the media is covering it. That's number one. Number two, police incompetence. Something that I talk about all the time is police incompetence. The very fact that this multiple billion-dollar, one of the largest standing militaries on the planet force, the NYPD, is so woefully incompetent. And it's not necessarily a bad thing in this circumstance, but it is a bad thing when there are real crimes happening and they're tasked with solving them and they fail to solve them. But like, it is so publicly in display that one of the most effective, supposedly, one of the largest, most effective police departments on the planet that have a submarine, okay? Drones, submarines, an office in Tel Aviv, like these guys are so woefully incompetent when they're tasked with finding one singular criminal, okay, supposedly criminal. It's a loaded word, right? that walked up in broad daylight and domed a healthcare CEO and calmly walked away, got on a bike, and went into Central Park to lower his 5-star rating down to 0 stars instantly. Central Park is the real life version of spray and pay. Okay, that's it. You go in with 5 stars in the Central Park, you come out 0 stars. Okay, straight up. It's crazy. So, well, I've already talked about a bunch of different things revolving the story, the reception, and how diametrically opposed the mainstream reception or the mainstream coverage of this is in comparison to like what the average moms and dads in the Midwest, like how they feel about it. And it's very interesting. It took him 3 days to find the backpack that he dropped. Okay. And for the record, the backpack is like a classic. I feel like the backpack that he used was like a classic everyday carry backpack too. What is the design? It's like a very famous backpack. No, I forget what it's called. Oh yeah, Peak Design. Yeah, it's a everyday backpack from Peak Design. And from what I understand, this is like something that people really love this backpack. Okay. By his look, the backpack is, oh my God, the combination and size color is unavailable. Wait, the 30-liter gray is unavailable. It's sold out. It's sold out. The 30-liter everyday backpack from Peak Design is sold out. Wow, that's guerrilla marketing right there, folks. So, that's really interesting. But so basically, it's reselling on eBay for $4K. The jacket is also getting sold out online. Some places also hiking up the prices like 10x. Anyway, that's insane that people watch that and we're like, oh, dude, I love how breathable his windbreaker is. I personally loved the way that he could move in his windbreaker and how many things he could put in his everyday carry backpack. It's like pretty solid. By his look. But yeah, the range of motion. But okay, going back to the earlier point that I was making though, is that like it is pretty funny to see how much the NYPD has dropped the ball on this. It's also kind of interesting how hard they are trying to find him, right? Like there is never this level of involvement for any random person getting murdered in broad daylight. If it was a random person getting murdered in broad daylight, nobody would give a shit. It would not be this big of a deal. So I guess when it's like someone in an actual position of power, when they get popped, it's like, whoa, all hands on deck. This is red alert, red alert. We have to do everything we can. This is the one time where we have to work, and they still cannot meet. They still cannot meet the standard necessary. The only law that matters is don't make cops look stupid in public. Yeah. Keeps you cool under pressure. The backpack. I think it's more about the media attention. No, it's not just because of the media attention. The media attention is also interesting, but it's because of the circumstances in which this act unfolded. It's obviously the motive of it was obvious. It's a person that was like seemingly had gripes with the way that healthcare works in this country, and it's a perfect story for many different reasons. But I think no matter what, like when a wealthy person is assassinated, yes, cops are going to take that very seriously as opposed to like a random person getting killed. It is also kind of wild that it took him, like I said, 3 days to find the backpack that he just dropped.
Grid search by drone and on foot, eventually leading them to the suspect's backpack. Now, detectives sifting through it for clues.
That image, that picture of him, and this could be blasted all over the country, and the phone calls are going to be coming in. Someone knows this guy from somewhere.
Police say they believe they now have a clearer timeline of the suspect's steps before the murder, telling ABC News they think the suspect arrived in New York City November 24th, 10 days before the shooting, on a Greyhound bus, boarding somewhere between Atlanta and Washington, D.C. Investigators using facial recognition technology on the only clear images of who they believe to be the suspect, captured during a flirtatious exchange with the hostel clerk who asked him to smile to check his ID.
This is straightforwardly a perfect story. Okay? Like, even the very fact that he was like rizzing up the fucking reception person. Now, I don't even know if this person is the real person. This is just what the NYPD is claiming is the real person. We don't even know. And I'm not even like joking when I say that, because I know I've been joking quite a bit about the story where I'm like, oh, that's not him. It could be anybody, you know? And before people say completely different jacket, nobody owns one jacket, chat. Calm down. They identified the wrong guy. Innocent man wrongly identified as Brian Thompson, shooter, fearing for his life. I mean, wait, what? No, dude, this is a Daily Mail article about Joey Manorino, who is like a fucking random right-wing Twitter troll who's... It's a bullshit article, chat. Don't get fucking duped, okay? That's not... It's Joey Manorino. He's like the classic fucking right-wing dipshit on Twitter.
Which sources say was fake. Authorities also turning to DNA pulled from items left near the murder scene, including a cell.
Whoa! Hey! Calm down. That's a very different gun. That's a very different gun. That's not. That could be anybody. That could be anybody. It looks like I wasn't here. I was in the UK. Stop. I was in the UK when this happened. Okay. Totally different gun also. No suppressor. $50K easy.
Cell phone and a smudged fingerprint from a water bottle they say the suspect bought at a Starbucks minutes before the shooting. This video showing the suspect tossing an item in the garbage.
He was methodical and disciplined. I will give this individual that. But everybody makes mistakes, and you got to find those mistakes.
As the search intensifies, police working to determine a motive. Police believe the gunman is a disgruntled ex-employee of UnitedHealthcare or an angry client.
Today, value-based care is the centerpiece of our growth strategy. And
now, other corporations.
I think one of the craziest parts about this is that, like, this dude is still like small fry. Okay. He's not even the top dog. Like the UnitedHealthcare structure, like there's a UnitedHealthcare group. Okay. This guy is the CEO of one of the many different tentacles under the UnitedHealthcare group. So like he's a low level CEO. He's still fucking not a good guy. Okay. His actions are not great. Right. His actions were not great. But it is interesting. It is interesting to think that like there are still, less accessible people that are out there. I heard that some pharmacy techs were saying yesterday, no claims were being denied, where it usually is like 30 to 40% getting instantly denied. Yeah, it's a really interesting situation, isn't it? I mean, we saw Blue Cross Blue Shield Anthem reverse their decision like overnight to no longer offer coverage to anesthesia over a certain period of time. Like if you go under with anesthesia for if you go over a predetermined time frame, if you're under if you're taking anesthesia for a longer than a predetermined time frame, like they will not cover it anymore. They said that they weren't going to do that. And then they very quickly reversed that decision. I wonder what happened. And then Kathy Hochul was like taking, Kathy Hochul was basically taking credit for it.
And insurance companies on high alert, reassessing security for their senior executives.
And investigators are looking into the possibility that the gunman used what's known as a veterinary gun, typically used on farms and ranches. But now that the suspect may have skipped town, they're really leaning on the public for help. You know, those photos that we've shown are the clearest ones yet, and they are hoping someone out there can recognize him with.
And Morgan, other companies are now taking notice and taking
He was the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, which is the insurance division that makes up 3/4 of the UHG's revenue.
action when it comes to security now.
Yeah, this has really shaken up corporate America. We have several companies, insurance companies alike, scrubbing bios of their top executives from their website. Just this morning, we're learning that Centene, it's another major insurer, announced that it's not going to do its in-person investors meeting here in New York City. Instead, they're going to move it virtually. All of this to protect their employees and executives. So again, we've got heightened alert, not just in corporate America, but among these insurance companies.
This ripple effect across the country. Morgan, thank you.
Yeah, a time frame that doctors don't determine either. The insurance would determine it. But that's just how it is in America. That's my point. That's what's so frustrating about it. That is what's so frustrating about this process. And not only that, but also they used AI. UnitedHealthcare started using AI to deny claims. And it skyrocketed the number of denials that they were engaging in. And for the record, even the deny, depose, defend book that everyone is pointing to, like that book itself is not exactly a great book either. Like that's a pro healthcare insurance book, but it's so bad. Healthcare in this country is so bad that they even got capitalists who are pro healthcare insurance that are criticizing it. Okay. United CEO Andrew Whitty gave an address to the company today, leaked to me, telling employees we guard against unnecessary care and to tune out the critical noise.
Has been disturbed by the amount of negative and in many cases vitriolic media and commentary that has been produced over the last few days, particularly in the social media environment. And I want to reassure you of a few things. Firstly, we are going to continue to make sure that we put patients, consumers, and members first, as we always have done. The mission of this company is truly to make sure that we help the system improve by helping the experience for individuals get better and better. There was nobody who did more to try and advance that mission than Brian Thompson. And there are very few people in the history of the US healthcare industry who had a bigger positive effect on American healthcare than Brian. And we are going to make sure that we not only acknowledge and honor that legacy of Brian, but we'll continue it. Our role is a critical role, and we make sure that care is safe, appropriate, and is delivered when people need it. And we guard against the pressures that exist for unsafe care or for unnecessary care to be delivered in a way which makes the whole system too complex and ultimately unsustainable. So we're going to continue to make that case. We will continue to do the work we do. And I have never been more proud of this company and our colleagues and what this company does on behalf of people in need across the country. I encourage you to tune out that critical noise.
Yeah, they're basically changing. They're basically like hiding the board of executives and their names and stuff like that. People have been trying to get their Wikipedia pages deleted. Okay. And it's really interesting that they're this worried. I mean, I guess it's not that crazy to be afraid. in this time. But legally, isn't it all public? It's all public information. Yeah, but they could potentially change the laws. I mean, these are very wealthy people. These are very, very wealthy people. These are the people who have a lot of motion. These are the people who can change laws and rules to benefit them and offer themselves privacy. You have to understand, every day in this country, we are a uniquely violent nation, okay? We have a lot of guns in this country. We have an arsenal of weapons readily available for all. And every single day, there is another mass shooting that takes place. And it is so commonplace. This kind of violence is so commonplace in this country that it doesn't even meet the standard of like regular news coverage. This, on the other hand, has made news coverage. And the reason for why it has made news coverage is because this person was acting out the desires, I think, and the resentment that many Americans feel. Okay? I think that's what it is. That's why a lot of people are terrified. Because in the aftermath of the shooting, people were like, oh man, you really can't even be safe on these streets. The shooter is the shooter is still at large. And I was like, I'm not a fucking healthcare CEO. What do you mean? I don't think this guy is interested in killing other people, you know, or at least random people. I'm not afraid, you know. I am more afraid of random cops. Straight up. Got a push notification to exercise caution because the UnitedHealthcare shooter is still at large. I personally do not feel like I am on the shooter's radar because I am not the CEO of a highly divisive multi-billion-dollar insurance company. Yeah. Warning me about a guy who's out there killing billionaires is like warning a dog about phishing scams. So this is like the Chappelle bit about the LAPD offering protection to him because he was mentioned in Dorner's manifesto. I am not the one who needs protection. Yeah, exactly. So I think this is unique. The commentary that I made, the commentary that I had in the aftermath of the Trump shooting, the first one, is quite similar to this instance. Because in America, in the United States of America, normally when people experience some kind of anger or are having like a mental health episode or something, they often will go and kill the least protected, most marginalized targets. They just go to their school, right? And then they shoot up like a bunch of children or their teachers or something. It's rarely ever directed at someone in a position of power. And that is the norm. And as long as that is the norm, we will never get any changes on gun laws. We will never get any changes that actually protect the average Americans. We're actually used to the average American being slaughtered, butchered, senselessly. But this was a directional act of violence. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people in positions of power are fearful. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people are looking at the media coverage over it and going, I don't feel this way. But one thing that has been quite interesting, is seeing conservatives also exhibiting the same anger that you normally would hear from leftists online, right? Like the reception of this story has been quite interesting. Americans from all different walks of life, from all different kinds of backgrounds, different political ideologies that have all been fucked over directly by the privatized for-profit healthcare structure in this country also carry the same resentment that the shooter had. And that's precisely the reason why, while right-wingers and mainstream media, both liberals and conservative alike, are trying to maintain this civility aesthetic to say, people are celebrating this, like this is crazy. Normal conservatives, on the other hand, are like, of course people are celebrating this. The fuck are you talking about? Look, people are naturally going to celebrate. This is on r/conservative. This man's death is an allegory for the failure of privatized healthcare as a whole. We can all relate. Prescriptions we can't afford. People we know who have been turned down. Healthcare or treatment due to insurance reasons. I'm a Republican and I'm not going to defend the failure of privatized healthcare. It's an absolute tragedy that people who don't have access to healthcare. I know that sounds like a lib talking point, but this is America. Healthcare should be just as great as the rest of our country. Complicit for over 7 million deaths. 1/3 claim denial rate. UHC being investigated for using algorithms that automatically deny claims. UHC has some of the highest healthcare premiums and costs. All the while, he was a CEO and making over $10 million a year. Also, he was being investigated for fraud, money laundering. This man did not have clean hands. I'm not justifying murder, just stating facts. And in America, healthcare costs are still higher than many countries around the world while providing subpar service compared to said countries. This act of violence, okay, in and of itself, is ripping through the social fabric, right? Because this is vigilante justice, all right? And that's in almost every single circumstance. I wouldn't say unacceptable in every single circumstance, but like that is something that should not exist in a healthy society. But we are not living in a healthy society. And the very fact that people are also celebrating this vigilante justice means that there is like very deep-seated and valid resentment that people feel towards these institutions, understandably. That's it. That's it. And it's kind of crazy because, like, this is unique for the conservatives. And the reason why it's unique for the conservatives is because conservatives love vigilante justice. Their own version of vigilante justice is oftentimes directed at appropriate targets, those without any power whatsoever. Conservatives have celebrated Kyle Rittenhouse. Conservatives have celebrated that old guy that looks like Santa Claus that killed those climate protesters that were blocking traffic. Conservatives celebrated Daniel Perry, who killed in broad daylight in a crowded subway car a black homeless person who was exhibiting a mental health episode. He choked him to death. Conservatives celebrated Daniel Penny. Did I say Perry? Sorry. Daniel Penny, and still do. So this is unique for a lot of conservatives, I would say. Because normally, this is a person in a position of power. This is a person that is at the top of a reputable institution. Healthcare is important. Normally, you don't hear this kind of sentiment being expressed by conservatives, except as right-wingers try to polarize the subject and hit it from the angles that they're used to try to get their fan base to agree with them, to see this in the way that they see it. Right-wing commentators and mainstream media are failing to get people to be upset at the shooter. Because I think their personal experience with healthcare is so bad that they are aware of the inconsistency with what a wealthy political commentator like Ben Shapiro is saying. This video, by the way, apparently is sitting at 21,000 dislikes, and how they personally feel. I work in a factory in a deep red state. My coworkers all voted for Trump and wear his merch. They were laughing at this incident. It's not just the left. Ben, you're a millionaire. You're on a true blue collar conservative. You're a rich guy that tries to appeal to working class Republicans. You don't understand what poor people go through. Why do you pick on the left? This is bipartisan. You're out of touch. Ben, this issue is like a 99%